It's 6:02, and we have quite a few items on the agenda. So I move that we open the joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Health. You vote on that?
No vote.
No, you can just go.
So all right. So we're now in session. First item on the agenda is the coronavirus update. Sounds like John and Tony and Anna may provide some update.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I can provide an update. So we've had no new cases in the past 7 days, which is wonderful. In terms of our vaccination rates, in total for the town population, we're 73% fully vaccinated. In terms of our age ranges, the 12 to 15-year-old population, 43% have had their first dose, but we're not far enough in for them to be fully vaccinated yet. The 16 to 19-year-old population, 85% have completed their first dose and 71% are fully vaccinated. 20 to 29 years, 79% have completed their first vaccination and 70% are fully vaccinated. 30 to 49-year-olds, 85% have completed their first and 74% are fully vaccinated. From 50 to 64 years, 91% have completed their first vaccination and 85% are fully vaccinated. 65 to 74-year-olds are 95% fully vaccinated and 95% their first shot done. And then 75 and older, 95% have had their first shot and 85% are fully vaccinated at this point.
That's remarkable.
So what's the
numbers? Sorry, I think
is 12 years the youngest that are eligible?
Yes, for Pfizer, the 12 to 15-year-olds can get Pfizer as of right now.
And do you know if there's a plan for kids younger than that, or?
I know they're working on studying the vaccine, and I believe Moderna will probably be the next one to come out for the younger age ranges of 12 to 15. And then I think I would assume probably over the summer we'll start seeing younger age ranges for Pfizer first and then Moderna second.
Sounds good.
So that's really great. Those numbers are awesome. We'll get new numbers again tonight. So those are as of last week. We get them every Thursday evening. To be 73% fully vaccinated and 80%, at least 80% with the first dose, we're cruising right along. And we're doing, compared to our, we're definitely ahead of the game compared to other communities. So that's awesome. Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome. Lynn Tech is starting to wind down their hours, and it's going to move to Lynn Community Health's main campus versus Lynn Tech probably in July is what it looks like. They'll run the clinic at Lynn Tech through the end of June as of right now is what I've been told.
Where is Community Health?
It's downtown Lynn by the
Physically
train
located.
by the train station.
Okay.
I'd like to add that
And then June 5th.
supplementing the Lynn
Go ahead,
Community
John.
Center is the Lynn Public Health Department. They have a clinic and they will be conducting vaccinations as well. Their times are posted on the Lynn website.
It sounds like the state of emergency is expected to be lifted June 15th.
That's
So
the way
less
it
than a
looks.
week. So,
Dan, do you have anything to add regarding the in-person, committee meetings?
Yes. As of now, the open meeting law will revert back to its pre-COVID status on the 15th, but there are two bills pending, one for a permanent change and one for a temporary change. Of course, a temporary change was introduced by the governor not so long ago, and that is with the Senate Ways and Means Committee. They were taking written testimony as of June 1st, but they have yet to issue any sort of finding or decision. So we're waiting on that. The permanent change is with the State Administrative and Regulatory Oversight Committee. They held a hearing on June 2nd. It's actually online. You can watch it. It's about a 3-hour event. Some pretty compelling testimony from disabled folks championing the idea that they can participate by Zoom. Tells me that this will be a permanent change sometime soon. But at the end of the day, we're still waiting to hear back for anything official from that committee. But again, you can watch it online if you look for it under the State Administrative and Regulatory Oversight Committee in Massachusetts. June 2nd was a hearing.
Is there any expectation, Dan, of like when they'll make a decision on that? Are they trying to do it ahead of June 15th or?
Well, there's an expectation, there's a hope, but there's nothing really concrete to give us that hope, to be quite frank. There's nothing out there just yet, but I'll keep you guys posted. So what that means for us is that any hearing to be noticed as of already needs to be in person, and any meeting needed to be noticed as of the 13th needs to be noticed in person as of now.
All right. All right, so it looks like Gene's with us now, so that's nice. Hey, Gene.
I'm here. Hi, good evening.
You haven't missed much. Well, I shouldn't say that. You missed the coronavirus update, but that's pretty much it.
Great.
So if that's it for Corona, we can move on to opening comments. The compost area is open on Saturdays and Wednesdays from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. 2021 Nahant resident stickers are required. And you can visit nahant.org for acceptable materials, but basically it's, no plastic, grass, leaves, twigs, etc., nothing over 8 inches in diameter, and no tree stumps. Recycling dates for metal and white goods, TVs, and computers is the last Saturday of each month from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. behind the DPW garage. Fees may apply. Checks only, no cash. Visit nahant.org for more information on acceptable materials. Parking stickers, 2021 parking stickers are now available on nahant.org. The stickers are $10 each, and all outstanding bills must be paid and a consensus completed before purchasing. And from the looks of things this past weekend, those stickers are being enforced now. So water and sewer bills are due June 28th. If you have any questions, please call the Treasurer Collector's Office at the Nahant Town Hall. Any opening comments, Gene or Mark?
I think I'll wait until citizens forum. I do have a few things I want to talk about, but I'm hoping that a couple residents will be on at that point that can join me. So I'll wait till then, Josh.
All right. How about you, Gene?
Yeah, I just got a call today and an email on the traffic up in front of the town hall going down to Wash Street. A complaint that there's a continuous speeding in that area, and the residents are looking for a 25-mile-per-hour sign up in that area. So I'm passing that along, and hopefully we can do something to accommodate them.
Yep.
Sure. I'm sure we can get a 25 MPH sign installed, say by the town hall.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, probably just before you hit Wharf Street.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess just one more comment for me. It was a really hot weekend, just maybe the start of summer, and around this weekend I was pleasantly surprised how calm everything was, and the police seemed to have everything under control, so great job to them.
Police did a great job.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of compliments from over the weekend from a number of different folks about our police department, and I know they wrote about 100 tickets and moved an additional 100 cars. And I know they were working hard this weekend, and I let the chief know that that was recognized and that I heard the comments. So, they're doing a good job.
Yeah. They do a nice job balancing ticketing versus warning people. And, I know I was up at Canoe Beach and they gave people a warning, gave people a chance to move their cars, before they just handed out tickets. So sort of.
Hey, in that kind of weather, would it be worth having the police have a summer outfit, Bermudas, shorts and t-shirts, something more than wearing a uniform in 90-degree weather?
Something I can talk to the chief about.
I assume that would be up to the chief.
Yeah.
Well, I'm bringing it up. I think it's a good idea. Leave it up to the police.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Any other opening comments before we move on to new business? All right, so new business, the first item is to approve Johnson School Field Day. Is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the Johnson School Field Day event on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Flash Road Park area with a rain date of Thursday, June 17th, 2021.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Always a fun event. Any other discussion? All right, hearing and seeing none. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's just good to see the kids get together again outside, and I think the focus on this year is going to be polka dots. I think so the kids have to wear something.
All right.
Something with polka dots. So, whatever.
I miss those days. All right, and I know they did file a COVID compliance guideline and safety regulations. So, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. The next item on the agenda is approve the waste management contract. We have a motion there.
I move that the Board of Selectmen execute the solid waste and recyclable material collection, transportation, and processing contract with Waste Management of Massachusetts, Inc., dated July 1, 2021, with a contract term ending July 1, 2026.
I'll second it.
All right, moving on to discussion. This is something that's been in the works for quite some time now. We've talked about it at a number of Board of Selectmen meetings. Tony, do you want to walk us through some of the details here?
Sure. I had Ed Pasek on the phone on the call too. Ed's our rep from Waste Management, and of course Dan Scripp as well has been working. The three of us have been working together on this. They've been working over the last couple of weeks here, finalizing the language of the contract. It's a 5-year. This is a 5-year contract. Brings us from July 1 of 21 to June 30 of 26. This contract it's pretty competitive compared to the rates that you see in other communities. Ed can speak to that. We have been dealing with the volatility of recycling, the recycling industry and the materials market. So last year we did a 1-year deal to try to, coast our way through some of the changes that were occurring. And then with the pandemic, the volume of recyclable materials changed drastically. So we've been kind of trying to pin this down at the right time, and I think we've hit it. You know, we have you know, a great partnership with Waste Management. You know, of course, you know, this trash happens from time to time. It happens all the time, but you know, they do a great job. Their trucks are in great shape. Their crews are, you know, bring a community personality, I think, when they're dealing with the residents on the street. And we're very pleased with their company. So Ed's on the call here. And Ed, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for all your kind words. You know, we work hard to keep everybody in town happy and get the trash and recycling collected. And, you know, I'd really just like to thank the town for a successful partnership. We've been going on 6 years now, and it's been a real pleasure to work with so many good people in town and get to know so many good folks. And basically just say, you know, thank you for your business. We appreciate you know, working with the town, and we look forward to continuing to work with the town for the next 5 years. You know, one thing that Tony had mentioned is, you know, the competitiveness and also the some of the recycling volatility. So I'd like to kind of speak about that for a minute and just say that, you know, things have really picked up in a way it's a nice development. So I think, Tony, I haven't even brought you up to speed on some of the most recent development here. I just found out today, but the recycling markets continue to improve. And I think that's going to position the town in this most current contract here to have a price that's pretty much flat with this current year. So, I mean, I know that the current year was extremely competitive. And I know that we're going to be able to offer the town a price that's going to be very similar. I just want to clarify that there is some volatility in that with the way the recycling is priced in there. But you know, the way the market is looking right now, it's very positive. So the town stands to benefit from that feature within our contract, where if the markets improve, the price for recycling continues to go down. So that's something that I would like to point out there. I don't know, Tony, if you want me to talk a little bit about some of the other enhancements we have, like with carts and so forth.
Yeah, I think the board might have a couple of questions too, but if you can quickly hit some of those points.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, you know, one thing that we're pretty excited about is the introduction of recycling carts to the town. You know, there's some really nice features about this program, and it includes, you know, I guess on an aesthetic level, just a nice curb appeal when it comes to trash day, and you know, instead of having as many bins and laundry baskets and boxes and all that sort of stuff out at the curb to contain everybody's recycling, there's a nice uniform look. It's a nice barrel that's on wheels. It has a lid on it, and it has a nice town seal that's hot stamped right on the side. So it's a nice look. In addition to that, there's a functionality though that comes with it all. I think there's a convenience of just being able to wheel everything right to the curb, but then also, you know, you don't get the birds and the wind and you know, rodents and everything spreading material around and creating that wind-blown litter and wind-blown bins. You know, and I know that happens in town, just given the proximity to the ocean and all that. So, I mean, there's some nice functional enhancements that go with that. And then also just, I mean, on our end, we like it because it keeps the recycling dry. And, you know, that's a question that we get a lot oftentimes is, well, doesn't the recycling have to be kept dry? And the answer is, yeah, it really should be. And when you don't have a bin to contain it, it becomes kind of an issue. So that's another thing that we're going to benefit from on our end is when we process the material, it's going to have, it's going to be a little bit cleaner and more dry. So we like to see that. So it's like a win-win for everybody there. And then finally, I would just say that, you know, making this transition to the carts on the recycling side sets the town up for for the potential of some savings in the future. So, you know, we already have, I think, a very, very competitive contract with the town. But if we could move this to a fully automated program, the town could benefit from some even greater savings. And having these carts deployed throughout the town is a prerequisite to have. Is a prerequisite before we could go with an automated system. So, you know, it's just sort of laying the groundwork, and it keeps that possibility open. And our contract that we're contemplating right now also has that provision in there that we can make that switch without having to go through a whole nother contract process. So we're happy about that possibility in the future as well. So. Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions on what I shared. It was kind of a mouthful, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Also, I heard from Lou today that we are going to be the first town with eco carts in the ocean blue color. We will be testing. We'll be the first town to receive those. So it's fitting for our town to go with that color. So that's good.
It is, and just to kind of let everybody know the significance of the eco cart. What the eco cart is it's actually, you know, as you know, the carts are made of plastic. Well, the eco cart is unique in that it actually uses the same type of plastic that residents would put in the cart to recycle. It uses that type of plastic in the construction of the cart. I mentioned earlier that commodity markets are improving, and that's causing a reduction in the net cost to the town. This is the type of thing that we see happening in various industries, and we're happy to partner with companies like Cascade, who are able to offer this type of technology or this type of advancement where they're actually using that material. When companies use the recyclable material, what ends up happening is it drives the recycling markets in the right direction, and then cities and towns get to save on their program. So it's a full circle solution. Yeah. So we're real excited about that.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions, if I could. And thanks for your presentation. I just do want to mention that, you know, our waste collection contract is exempt from the traditional Chapter 30B procurement laws. That's why it's not being placed out to bid like normal contracts. The state law provides the town to bypass that. A couple questions there. One is, first one that comes to mind are the old recycling bins recyclable?
It's a good. So here's the thing when it comes to recycling. Many things are recyclable, but not all of them are recyclable in the curbside program. So one thing that we try to kind of coach and educate people on is the fact that you know, we're looking for more like jars and bottles and you know, kind of containers that people would use for food in household settings, that kind of thing. Jugs for laundry detergent, that type of thing. So just because a lot of people's bins are plastic doesn't mean that they're appropriate for recyclable in this curbside program. So one thing that Tony and I did talk about though was, you know, if people did want to dispose of their old bins, we would be able to collect those as part of the trash collection, and they could just leave those out and mark them somehow that, you know, they should be disposed of. So I mean, that way it would at least get those out of people's hands if they don't need them anymore. Of course, we would encourage everybody to reuse. Reusing is actually more commendable than recycling. So if there's applications that people have for those receptacles at home, whether it's restoring other items or anything like that, we would certainly encourage that.
And we're working on a pamphlet that'll be actually hanging from the lid of the new barrel when it gets delivered to your home. And on that pamphlet, it'll say 3 things that you can do with your old bins. You can either reuse them, preferably reuse them maybe for yard waste or for trash. B, potentially we're going to work with Ed on, marking them, like he said, like with an X for collection at curbside. Or C, we may do like a collection day at the DPW yard with a big dumpster. So we'll give people information with the new barrels on what they can do with their old barrels.
Great.
Hey, Tony, just in regard to the disposal, couldn't we get a sticker that says dispose?
Yeah, we could do whatever, just something that if you're going to put it out for curbside, that
Yeah,
Waste Management recognizes it as something to collect. We obviously, don't want them to take barrels that people aren't trying to throw away. So, yeah, we could
Just
do
a small
anything that makes it clear.
just a sticker would be perfect.
Yep.
Sorry, Mark.
No problem, Dean. Ed, I did take a look at the contract today. I am somewhat familiar with it. And I talked to Tony about it, and maybe you can fill in some of the gaps that weren't answered. Is Waste Management required to provide weight slips on a monthly basis or annual basis or quarterly basis for?
So we have all the records for all the weights and everything. So just to yeah. So when we invoice the town on a monthly basis, we invoice for the collection service, but also for the tonnage that we collect, trash and recycling. So that information is contained in the invoice already. But in addition to that, one thing that Tony and I have discussed for the future is basically a report that contains all the tonnage on a monthly basis, and then also any complaints or missed pickup reports that we receive in our call center, that we could report that back to the town. We currently have all that information, and we're more than happy to provide it. It's just a matter of it being requested. So instead of making it like on a per request basis, we're just gonna make it every month now.
I think that would be helpful. Does that include, is our waste brought to Resco in Saugus?
Yeah, all the solid waste goes there, correct.
I know that they issue a sort of a tipping weight that Resco must issue too. And that your monthly report should correspond with those tipping weights, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, we could provide all that if there's a if you need to see the weight slips or whatever backup you need,
Yeah.
we can do that.
I mean, I just think it's good, to keep our records straight. So there's no question if we can have our tipping weights from Resco and what your weights are so that they match up. We know what we're paying for and whatever. So I think that would be useful. I also think it's useful that we keep a log of what the complaints are. There is a liquidated damages provision in the contract, correct?
There is, yeah, it's Appendix C, I believe.
Right. And hopefully we don't need to go there, but in the event that we do, that information is going to be useful. By and large, I think that Waste Management does a great job. You have certain weeks we have some issues, but I don't think we're ever going to avoid that. As long as you can respond quickly, I think we can resolve those problems. But I think reporting that information on a monthly basis would be helpful.
Sure, we can do that. It's no problem. And I would just say this: we're not perfect. We do our best, but we're not perfect. When there is an issue, if whether it's a resident or anybody needs to report something, I'd encourage them to call our call center. That would be the most efficient way to resolve anything. So if it's a matter of trying to get a truck back or to their location, and that would kind of keep the town out of the process. And it would also just streamline it. So I know there's times when sometimes Tony gets a report or something, and then Tony contacts me, and then I could contact somebody within our organization, and and obviously we do our best to respond to all that. But if it goes directly to our call center, it's going to cut down the response time, so that might help people.
When does your last truck on Friday leave the town?
I think when I don't have an exact time. I'm not sure. I know it's sometime in the afternoon. I would assume it's probably around. I don't want to assume it. I don't want to give the wrong information, but I don't know. I could find out though.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I ask it is, particularly with Friday pickups, if they miss something, and we're in the middle of the summer, and now the homeowner is stuck with their rubbish through the weekend. So if we could work something out, whether or not, I don't know, Tony, I know that you don't want to get DPW involved, but if Waste Management has left town, they're not getting back to town, to help the residents, we just collect it maybe if we have to, we bring it down to DPW, something along those lines.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the first, like Ed said, first step would be to call a call center and try and get that ticket in, because you may be able to catch them before they leave town or they're far away. And then if it can't be resolved, then certainly the town will step in and do the collection and bring it down to the DPW dumpsters.
Okay. One final question. Maybe you could just enlighten us on bulk pieces, Ed. I've had several experiences where I called and got a number to pick up, schedule to pick up bulk pieces. It's been very, very good. Both times I used it, it worked perfectly. So maybe you can talk about that a little.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, right now, the way the program is set up for solid waste collection is it includes the option for residents to put a bulk item. I think it's set up for one item per week. And what we ask is that residents just give us a call, and that's going to alert our driver that there's an item there at that location ready to be collected. So, that's really the best way to handle that. And if residents could do that, it will help ensure that everything gets collected as they wish.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So right now, as far as homeowners, the only difference you'll see with the new contract is that we'll be using the carts on wheels versus the individual bins, right? There's no change to the trash, although you've built into the contract the possibility of going to standardized trash bins in the future to permit automated pickup from the trucks.
Mm-hmm.
That's all baked into the contract already, right?
Yeah.
But right now, the only change is the recycling bins being the larger containers on wheels.
Yeah, and just one point, that's correct. And one point of clarification is that while the contract is set to start on July 1st, the bins would be scheduled to arrive in early August, unless there's been any changes to that, Tony. Is that still right?
That's still the timing.
Okay.
How are we going to distribute them?
Actually, Cascade distributes them. So they come in on two big tractor trailers, and then they distribute them. It'll probably take them a day or two, and they drop them off at every house.
Really?
Yep. So
That's great.
We give them a list of all of our accounts. If there's, if it's a two-family, if it requires two bins, or if it's a one and requires one.
And that's in August?
That's going to happen in August. Right now, that's what we're looking at right now.
Sounds good. Is there any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just to point out that Mr. Coleman had requested some tipping weight information on a monthly basis. So your vote will be conditioned on Ed, Tony, and I just adding that clause or some wordage to that effect.
Yeah, okay, that's acceptable to us.
It shouldn't be a big, I'm looking at this section now, it's just a few words.
It used to be in the older contracts, Dan.
Okay. It'll be in this one too.
And Tony, can you make a comment on the rates that people will be paying on a per unit basis? This contract versus this past year?
I'll save that for next week because we don't know the rates quite yet. That's why we're going to skip over it this week. Some of those rates are going to be adjusted based on the latest that Ed was talking about earlier. They shouldn't see much of an increase compared to the rates that we had last year in place, if any. With the cost of this contract being a flat, almost a flat increase, as Ed had mentioned, which, by the way, Selectman Cullen had mentioned it's not required to go out to bid. Last year's, if these numbers end up being similar to last year's numbers, we presented those last year and stated that the last time the town went out to bid and Waste Management had won that bid, the numbers that Waste Management were providing last year were still better than the second closest bidder from 5 years previous. So if we're still flat, we're still doing better than the bids we received almost 6 years ago now. So is that right, Ed?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's my recollection. Precisely as far as the comparison of last year's contract with the prior bids, and then we're pretty flat this year. So that's exactly how I'd look at that.
So when it comes to per bill number, last year we changed the structure of how we did that, and we're going to continue with that structure. But I think let me talk about it next week. I think we're going to be about at the same rate. Maybe a small increase. I'll let you know next week.
All right. Any further discussion on the topic? Hearing and seeing none, we can vote on the motion conditional upon Waste Management providing the monthly tipping weight numbers. Roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Edrum, aye. Next item on the agenda. What's that, Mark?
I just said thank you to Ed.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming, Ed.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The next item is vote to approve sale of bonds and signed associated paperwork. I'll make a motion. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the votes as written and incorporated such votes into the minutes of this meeting.
So let me
Is there a second?
share my screen.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Gene.
So quite a lengthy motion, many votes involved in this one. Allison is on as well. Allison, are you unmuted?
I am now.
All right, hi.
Hi.
Tony, can you zoom a little bit? My laptop screen's not that big. That's good for me.
So I'll have to scroll.
That's
through.
real good.
What do you've moved now to vote as, in favor as written. What I'm showing you here is the as written part. So all of these motions, individual motions, are approving the sale of bonds and authorizing the treasurer collector to execute and deliver certain rules associated with that. And this is all the language here that I'm scrolling through. And Allison's on the phone because I know this can get a bit technical, but it is an annual procedure. So all of these bonds are, or these borrowings have been authorized by town meeting vote, or through the, through our Municipal Modernization Act authorizations or things of that nature. So Allison, could you speak a little bit more in detail about these bonds?
Yeah, so they're actually not bonds. They're bands, which are it's short-term borrowing. So the town usually borrows for 1 year at a time. That's kind of been how the town has approached its borrowing. And what that does is it saves the town on long-term interest costs. And it's been pretty effective. So we have bands that are coming due June 25th. So that's what this Series A ban is. It's to renew those. There's 3 of them. And then the Series B is for bands that are coming due on July 8th, and it's to renew those for another year. In each of those series, there are some bands that we're paying down. I put together a quick spreadsheet to show Tony today. We're paying down about $730,000 in bands in June and July. And so those are for projects that are already completed, and it will basically help get that debt off of our books. But the others are ongoing. So again, these are all for authorizations from prior town meetings, and it's for a number of projects. I can answer more specific questions. We got, for the Series A bands, we received 5 bids. For the Series B, we received 4 bids. Both were very competitive. We got a 1% coupon rate for each, which is very good. It's basically a net interest cost of less than 0.5%. So we fared very well in the issue yesterday.
Allison, I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
Some of these bonds, the lower the amount, we may carry short term for a while and end up paying them off before we need to go long term. But clearly, there are some that we'll definitely go long term at some point. And I'm wondering, given the interest rates for some of those long-term bonds, some of the higher amount bonds that we know are going to be going long-term at some point. Mm-hmm. Does it make sense to go, to go long-term now, to go now, because the interest rates are so low, hoping that interest rates don't begin to increase in the coming years? I mean, just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it both ways, and it is a discussion that I've had with Hilltop Securities, that's the town financial advisor. I think for maybe some of the larger bands, that might be something that we want to do, for instance, the sewer, and something that we haven't fully spent yet, because you don't want to bond long-term until you have fully spent those funds. So I could see considering that for the sewer next year when we do this.
Okay. Yeah.
But other than that, I think because we've been paying down the bands pretty quickly, I think that the way that the town is going about doing this has been the most cost effective.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree completely. Maybe next year we'd take a look at those, particularly the sewer bond, and that's what I was focusing on.
Yeah,
and then we're gonna be long term. We're gonna be long term soon anyway. So
right.
We might as well, take advantage of the low interest rates currently. They're not going to get much lower, I don't think.
Right. And the other thing we could consider is, so this ban issue does not include any of the new authorizations from this past town meeting. There wasn't enough time since town meeting in May to get all of the bond council legal requirements. So we'll likely have another issue sometime later this fiscal year. So we may even want to look at it then too. And I can certainly run through scenarios with Hilltop Securities.
Makes sense. Thank you, Allison.
Mhm.
Tony, can we vote on this as presented?
So we did it in 2019 and in 2020, I think as well. So I'm comfortable with that, and that's the motion that Josh has read so far.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm going to need you to sign this document this within the next week.
And there will be additional documents coming next week as well that everyone will have to sign. It's usually like a stack about yay high.
Yeah, I asked this before, Tony. I'm in town all the time anyway, so I can always run up and sign things. But Allison, you accept electronic signatures on these things?
That's a good question. On these documents, I do not think so. Bond council is pretty stringent on that. I have used electronic signatures for a number of other things, but I don't think you can for this.
Okay.
I agree with that. The Electronic Signatures Act doesn't apply to everything, and if it's going to make some exceptions, it's going to definitely be something like this that would require a wet signature.
Yeah, bond council is pretty strict.
Okay. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other discussion? So
No,
we'll,
I agree with Mark's assessment, and Tony and I were talking briefly today about taking advantage of the lower interest rates.
yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. So we'll get into town hall over the next day or two and get all these signed off.
So we don't have the documents yet.
Oh, okay.
We actually wait till next week. I think it's the 15th, or we'll have them. We'll let you know when to come in and sign them.
All right. Any further discussion? Yeah, hearing and seeing none. Roll call vote.
Gene Cathy, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Everett, aye. The next item is to vote to approve the FY22 water, sewer, and trash rates. Do we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Select.
Go ahead, Gene.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the fiscal year 22 water rate of $9.92 and the fiscal year 22 sewer rate of $14.08.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
You can
So,
speak to this a little bit, Allison and I, if you'd like.
yeah, please do.
Water rate, not seeing a tremendous increase compared to last year. Our projected rate last year for 100 cubic feet was $9.37. This year being $9.92. We actually fared pretty well. A lot of that was because of a lot of we fixed a lot of leaks this past year, so that helped us. And I don't know if you recall, a few months back when we were developing our budget, me showing the rates compared to other MWRA communities, and we're pretty low. We were on the lower end of increases compared to last year. So water's not bad. Sewer's high. Sewer, we had, our rate was $11.99, and we're going up to $14.08. So this is a product of Lynn Water Sewer increases. Their assessment, they've told us we're going up, potentially 50% over the next year, and a lot of that's due to the closure of Gorelick Farms, the new O&M contract, operating and maintenance contract that they're going out to bid for, and a lot of capital improvements that they are either required to do from an administrative consent order or doing in order to get a better bid on their O&M contracts. So this is something that we've been expecting, and we are, you know, we're looking at this summer. We will be looking at potentially a restructuring of how we, instead of having one rate for everyone, potentially having a tiered rate structure based on usage. So further incentivizing conservation of water. But this is, we haven't gone through that process yet.
Tony, I've got a question for either you or Allison, particularly on the sewer rate. As you know, we have a debt exclusion in Nahant on our water and sewer. So the capital costs in Lynn, are they excluded, Allison? And why wouldn't they be?
They're part of.
Sorry, because it's part of our assessment.
Yeah.
It's included as part of the assessment from Lynn Water Sewer. So they are, it's part of our contract with them. So it's not a debt exclusion.
But it is a debt.
Yeah, but it's incorporated as part of their assessment. So it's not, it's a charge that they're passing on to us, I guess, is to look at it.
Okay.
So the capital improvements plan, oh, go ahead, Allison, sorry.
Yeah, I've never considered it before. It's maybe something we could look at. I don't know too much about the capital program in Lynn Water Sewer either, so.
Yeah, so my understanding is, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong. So Lynn Water and Sewer do a 5-year capital plan, basically upgrading the plant, and they distribute those costs to the communities that participate on a percentage basis. I'm just wondering why that portion couldn't be considered under our debt exclusion. It might be something we want to look into.
Okay. It is also, in terms of the amount, it's like for what we appropriate, it looks like for FY22, the amount for the capital part is about $50,000. So the assessment piece is what's really driving up the actual sewer rate. But yeah, I think it's something we should look at.
But I think what Mark's talking about is the capital costs at Lynn Water Sewer.
Oh, okay.
Right now being lumped into our assessment.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying, exactly.
Okay.
And we're not seeing that those capital improvement costs yet? Is that a true statement? In other words, they haven't made those capital improvements yet?
They're in the process of doing them now, and I think we're starting to see, that's part of the increase in our assessment that we're starting to see, is that cost being passed down to the communities.
Right. So, Mr. Chairman, what they do is they'll do a 5-year plan and they'll go out and float a bond for that capital improvement. And the principal interest payments on that bond will be distributed among the communities. And my question to Allison and Tony was, because Nahant has a debt exclusion on our water and sewer borrowing, wouldn't that apply to that? And I think it's worth looking into. It's not a lot of money right now, but it's something.
I think could that apply to it is like the way is what I'm thinking is we could potentially ask for a breakdown of the assessment that we receive. How much of that is capital costs, right? And then potentially shift that and raise it on the tax levy
Right.
Um,
Now, you know, the only difference is, I mean, Nahant's going to pay one way or the other. It's either going to pay through its real estate taxes or it's going to pay through its water and sewer rates. Personally, I'd rather pay through my real estate taxes because I can write that off in my federal income tax. I can't write off my water and sewer rate.
but you're also in the last couple of years, your write-off cap has decreased, right? So most people are hitting that anyway. So the benefit of that is kind of decreased a bit, and you're not capturing properties in town, some of which that are larger in nature, that don't pay property taxes.
Exactly.
So there's like that back and forth. That's one of the things we're going to try to take a look at in this summer when we're talking about how we structure our sewer rates. So, you know, we don't, even with the current debt shift, we don't have to shift all of our debt costs. We can pick, you know, we can shift some. It's up to the board of selectmen. So it's not a must, but it's we do have the authority to do it. So I wonder if we could potentially explore that, Mark, and shift it over.
Okay.
What we're gonna say.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I was just also gonna say that on top of the 5-year, the typical process that you mentioned, because their operating and maintenance contract was ending this year, the 30-year contract with I forget the name of the company, but at the end of that contract, they come in, they do a full assessment of the current of the facility and pinpoint items that needed to be repaired or would benefit a future bid on the future O&M contract if invested in. So on top of their 5-year, they had that process happening, and just the new contract and the increase in costs associated with that from 30 years later contributing to this assessment as well. So some of it was capital that, you know, they were doing to try to get a better price, but prices are still really going up. And then plus on top of that, they're under an administrative consent order as well. So some of the capital costs are required. So a number of things factoring into that increase.
So what I'm wondering is, this increase is whatever it is, 30 or 40% over last year, and maybe the bonds have been taken already for the capital improvement, but sounds like maybe the O&M contract is not yet reflected there. So what I'm wondering is, you know, is this the tip of the iceberg, or is this, you know, half of the increase we're going to see over the next couple of years? Is there a way to predict this?
We'll know more, I think, once the new contract is signed and what that cost is going to be. I lean towards, I think this is more like the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to be continuing to see increases, and the best thing we can do, you know, it's a volume unit. It's a volume-based unit, right? So the best there's some things that we could do to help reduce that cost is improve our II, promote water conservation, you know, things of that nature.
Yeah, so just, you know, to remind people, obviously we don't have meters on our sewer, we have meters on our water consumption. So you save on your water consumption, you save on your sewer.
Mm-hmm.
Just to touch upon the point Mark made about whether the extra cost should go into real estate tax, or onto the water and sewer. As Tony pointed out, not everybody pays real estate tax, so we have to be careful with that, and debt transfers as well to make sure everyone's paying their fair share.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, Josh, for sure. The only other thing Tony and we've talked about a lot is to make sure that whatever capital improvements Lynn is making and passing off to the other communities are actually our costs. I mean, if they're doing I stuff in Lynn that specifically address the Lynn, not affecting Swampscott or Saugus on the Nahant, then we shouldn't be paying for that. and just make sure, and that had happened in the past. That the town, when I first came on, the town was paying, not only Nahant, but Saugus and Swampscott were paying for capital costs that were not the result of anything either of those communities were doing. And it created a big adjustment in our rates. So I'm not saying that's happening now, but it's something to be watchful about.
Definitely.
How do you police that, Mark?
Well, they have to have as Tony said, they'll have a complete capital plan, and all of the improvements in their capital plan. And one of the things that Tony and I talked about was the hiring for Saugus, Nahant, and Swampscott to hire our own engineer to go through that capital plan to make sure that those costs that are being passed on to us are ours.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, because, as you spoke about, how to make sure those capital costs are applicable to Nahant and Swampscott. And so that's immediately what I thought. Well, how do we scrutinize this to make sure we're, that sounds like a good idea to sort of share the cost of an expert to review all those.
Right, and I'm sure Swampscott and Saugus would join in with us on that.
Yeah. So, in the meantime, we have a motion in front of us. Is there any more discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Andrew, aye. The next item is to vote to approve the FY22 trash rate and elderly exemption. Is there a motion?
So postpone that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you told me that already. Sorry. We're also not going to do the fee schedule, right?
So fee schedule, we do every year before July 1st. We have sent it out to our department heads to ask for any updates that are necessary. Because of COVID last year, the only thing we changed in the fee schedule was the water, sewer, and trash rates. All other fees stayed flat. And I anticipate that to be the same this year. But this is also another item that, I think that this year heading in, we should think about working with the finance committee to study our current fee schedule and compare that to our neighboring towns and potentially propose some changes for a future fiscal year. But I think that requires a public process and plenty of lead time and notice to our residents. We may not be talking about significant increases, but I'm not sure where we stand as far as how we compare to our neighboring towns on certain fees. So we're not talking about anything drastic for this upcoming year, but we may want to think about starting the process of really digging into the weeds of our schedule and maybe, preparing for a freshening up of those fees for the following fiscal year.
Absolutely.
Yep. So after you hear back from the department heads, will we want to reconvene for a quick vote on this, or can we proceed until the July meeting?
I think we're
meeting once a month.
I think we're going to be meeting again before July. We have a couple different things that we're going to have to get in front of you guys, so we can. I just wanted to bring it up to your attention tonight, and we'll have it on the agenda for the next one.
Okay, sounds good. So the next item on the agenda is the FY22 appointments for review and votes. We have only one appointment this year, treasurer collector. Is there a motion on this?
All right, Gene.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the appointment of Brendan Carrick. Have I got that right?
Correct.
Corrett as the treasurer collector for fiscal year 22.
Seconded?
Any discussion? This is something that happens every year. I can read this term of office statement. There's value in that.
I think, no, you don't have to. It's the town charter. The only position in there that requires an annual vote is the town treasurer and collector. Short of a charter change, we have to take this vote every year.
Yep. Is there any discussion?
Brendan does a great job.
Yeah.
He does a great job. We're very lucky to have him. And he's a great part of the team. He's developed, he's been treasurer collector now. I think this is going to be his third year. And he's, coming right along. He does a great job.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I enjoy working with Brendan. I think he adds a lot of value to that office. He's great with the public, very calm, cool, and collected. And I've just really enjoyed working with him over the past few months.
Yeah, thanks for that. I don't have the insights into the, his daily working, but, certainly when I come into the town hall, he's, always a pleasure to deal with. So as a taxpayer, I certainly appreciate that. So, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. All right, so hopefully we get to keep Brendan for another year. There's a vacant seat on the Board of Assessors. So this is really an announcement. There's a vacant seat on the Board of Assessors. Please send letters of interest in your resume to Kristen Taylor at ktaylor@nahant.org. So KTAYLOR@nahant.org. This is an elected position, so this would be anticipation of an appointment until next April's vote, I assume. Is that correct, Tony?
That's correct. So the plan right now is that we would do a joint meeting with the Board of Assessors on July 14th. So we're asking for people to get their letters of interest in as soon as possible. As we get them, we will send them out to you and the assessors to, interview the folks that are interested. And I'll also just mention that this is the seat of the late Perry Barrasso. So it's an important one, and we're looking forward to interviewing some qualified candidates.
Hey, Josh, can I back up one? Why is the treasurer collector appointed every year, reappointed every year, or appointed every year? Why is that not a full-time position?
It's our town charter, Gene. Our town charter, it's the only position in the charter that says that the town treasurer and collector is appointed by the Board of Selectmen for a term of 1 year.
At one time, that was an elected position, quite a while back, but
It just seems uncomfortable to be in the one. It just seems uncomfortable to be in a 1-year position for somebody, as opposed to having a full-time position based on performance.
yeah, I definitely understand what you mean. It probably feels a little strange for someone, young man, young woman trying to build a career. I mean, I think the risk of us not voting him, is low, but it is a little odd. I agree.
But it's there. Can that be changed, Tony?
It could be changed by a special act or through charter. You can either just change it through a special act, or you can do a charter commission.
I think that would require a charter commission. If we're going to take that from an elected position to appointed to elected, you'd
I think he's saying, can we change the term, the appointment term? Still leave it appointed, but change it to you know,
Oh, I
multiple
see.
years.
I still think you need to,
No, I'm not. I'm saying change it to a full-time position.
Eliminate the.
Not an appointment, but a hire, you were saying?
Yeah,
Like a
A
standard?
hire,
yeah, it might
a
require,
hire,
it might require a charter commission.
well, it's something to think about, I think.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about charter commission changes, let's take a look at the whole thing. It's, there are a lot of changes that need to be made to that charter that I can think of, and I'm sure you can, Tony and Dan. I'm sure you can. So maybe in the near future we can take a look at appointing a commission to review our charter and to report back with some recommendations.
Great idea.
I believe, so I'll have to double check. I remember looking into this a couple years ago. The members of a charter commission, I believe, are elected. So you have to create the commission, then you have to hold an election. It's not a quick process.
not at all, Tony. It's a lengthy process, deliberately.
Yeah, it should be.
It's a 2-year process and requires a 2/3 vote on anything that's changed. It's not easy, but so it has to be deliberate and well thought out.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So
worth
we
thinking
should look
about.
at it.
Yeah. I feel like this came up
Yeah.
a couple years. Not on the specific issue necessarily, but some other change.
Yeah.
No, I think Mark is correct. We need to look at it. If it takes 2 years, it's 2 years. I mean, let's go forward with something, and if in the middle it doesn't look like it's something we want to continue with, then we back off of it. But I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
So, let's just revisit that. I'll speak to each of you and we'll revisit that. That we were speaking about the Board of Assessors, so it's part of our bylaws require a joint vote of the members of the Assessors and the Board of Selectmen. So if anyone's interested in being appointed to the Board of Assessors, from now until election day of next year in April, please send your letter of interest to Kristen at ktaylor@nahant.org as soon as possible. We will be voting on that July 14th.
So if we're voting on the 14th, we want to set at least a tentative deadline of, let's say the 12th, which would be Monday, maybe, just to get our ducks in a row.
Let's do Friday the 9th.
Sounds good. So get your letters and resume in by July 9th. Hopefully recently we've been having good luck filling these vacancies where we've had, more volunteers than slots. So hopefully we continue with that positive trend. The next item on the agenda is Nahant Fire Department Fire Chief. The Nahant Fire Department is now accepting applications and resumes for Fire Chief. The job description and job posting is on nahant.org. Please send a cover letter and resume to Kristen Taylor at ktaylor@nahant.org, KTAYLOR@nahant.org.
When is Dean Palumbo's effective termination, your resignation date?
He is retiring on the 30th. His last shift is the 28th.
Of this month?
Yeah.
Another announcement. is for the assistant town accountant. We're now accepting applications for assistant town accountant. The job description and job posting are on nahant.org. Send letters of interest and resumes to Anito at nahant.org. That's Allison. So ANIETO at nahant.org.
Both of those don't have deadlines. As we receive qualified applications, we will be scheduling interviews, and both positions are open until filled.
Is the assistant town accountant, that's a 40-hour-a-week position? Is that right?
37 and a half.
37 and a half.
Yep.
All right. Ongoing business. Vote to approve and sign town administrator's contract. We have a motion on this.
I'll make the motion to sign the contract, town administrator.
All right. There's a little more detail on the on your.
You know what? I didn't have that in front of me. I'm sorry.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve and sign the town administrator's contract with a starting term July 1st, 2021 to July 1, 2024.
I'll second that. All right. Any discussion?
I just wanted to add, we've been going, the board has been in executive session the last couple of months regarding this. We have developed a set of goals and objectives for the town administrator that we all agree on. The contract that we are about to approve is really set up so that we encourage the town administrator to stay with us longer, if possible. I support this contract.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, as you mentioned, Mark, we've been working on this for several months now, and with a huge bit of help from Dan Scripp. So thanks, Dan, for all that coordination. We can't, as you all know, we can't meet outside of session, whether it's open or executive session. So Dan's done a great job of coordinating with Tony and amongst the three of us to come up with, I think, a good contract that we're really happy hoping that Tony will sign this contract and we'll have him for another 3 years. So I think it's a good contract for Tony and at the same time respectful of the town's budget. So.
Hey, and I'd also like to say thanks to Tony for making this process that much easier for us to work through. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, that's a good point, Gene. Tony has been very cooperative for all this, through this whole process, you know, hammering out some of these details. So good job all around, I think.
I thank you guys. I thank the board. I thank Dan for his help. I thank the board. I thank, you know, our team. I love what I do. I love who I work for. I love our team. I'm truly grateful and ecstatic to have the opportunity to sign another 3-year contract for, you know, the town that has molded me as a person and now as a professional, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so
Hey, can I sneak something in?
Of course.
I'm looking at the Monday edition of the item, June 7th. And on the front page, there's a report on air noise over Swansea. And just for the purposes of looking down the road on this, one paragraph says, according to Stein, who's the Massachusetts Port Authority, Logan is considering shifting flight paths of approaching planes slightly north, I think they meant south, so that they travel over the Nahant Causeway instead of Swampscott. I think that we need to take is our abatement committee in full force right now?
Mr. Chairman, I think maybe we should finish our vote on this and then we can talk about that, maybe?
Oh, I'm sorry, did we
Yeah,
not finish?
Well, I think
Go
we
ahead.
just need to
Gene
get into
Canty,
town
aye.
hall to sign. Well, let's see, are we voting on this?
Yeah,
We haven't voted yet.
We haven't voted yet.
Yes, we are voting. So any further discussion on Tony's town administrator's contract? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rock on, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. So we'll get into town hall to sign. I assume that's the procedure. All right, let's go back to your concern, Gene, about the flight path.
Well, Dan, you informed us or gave us some information on this probably 4 or 5 months ago.
That's
Is
right.
this something? Go ahead.
Did you say the planes are approaching over Nahant, or did you say departing? I missed that word.
Coming and going.
Okay, well,
Is
those
how
are two
it's-
different, those are, I mean, not to be facetious, but those are two different things, and the planes follow two different patterns when they do those sorts of things. There is a action committee that works with the state and federal aviation authorities that is already looking into this, and they're specifying what they call RNAV 22 left, which is a particular route planes take to land at Logan. And that particular change would divert, not well, divert's a bad word, would alter the current path, which is basically straight over Salem, Lynn, Swampscott, right down into the runway, versus, as you mentioned, coming across the causeway and then sort of making a left dogleg into the final approach 222 left. But as you probably can tell, I look out my window now. Well, now they're departing, but when they're coming in on that runway, they do it already. They're already sort of testing it out, if you will. So it's already taking place. And like I said,
Well,
what's that?
go ahead.
There is that committee. Currently, the town has no representation in that committee. Bob D'Amico was our longtime representative, and he stepped down after a bunch of years. So that is open for some folks if they want to jump on it. I spoke to someone from Little Nahant that seemed interested. I never heard from him after town meeting. So there is that happening, and that's an ongoing current committee that I think has another meeting coming up sometime soon.
Well, when we last had this discussion, you had shown us the pattern, and the pattern was the planes would be coming from the north, and as soon as they got to Little Nahant, they would bank right and then left. They'd go right over Little.
That RNAV approach involved flights not over Little Nahant, I mean close to Little Nahant, but it didn't go over Little Nahant on that path. Now there are some planes that approach over Little Nahant, and they're not following that particular RNAV. They're what they call flying VFR. They're just looking out the window essentially, and eyeballing the runway, so to speak. I mean, it's a little simplistic, but that's what they're doing. Like today, you'll have a lot of planes coming over Little Nahant, but not the big ones, not the really big loud ones, what they call the heavies, the 300,000 pounds and more. They'll follow that path every time. And now there are some complaints from Little Nahant folks that say, well, I see these planes going directly over Nahant, and I have yet to see that on an approach. I've seen it on a departure, but not on approach.
I see it on approach often.
Well, if they're not, if the regional jets and the Cape Air with their 302s, yeah, they'll come over Little Nahant quite a bit, but not the big ones. The big ones will follow that path that's a pretty precise path that they follow.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just something I thought we should be watching.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. And you should encourage someone to step up and join that committee. It's all, as far as I've been seeing, it's all sort of by telephone, by Zoom. That might change.
So Bob reached out to me the other day saying that he actually feels like he could still remain a member of the noise abatement committee. And I meant to reach back out to him to see if how he felt about getting back on as our representative on the committee that you were talking about there, Dan. So I do want to speak with him, but if we need more, we need someone else, we're definitely gonna put that out there. Gene, we've been watching this very close. I'm sorry, Selectman Canty, we've been watching this very closely. Dan's been joining a lot of the committee meetings that have been occurring at the state level. They are, what we discovered really was that it's still going to be some time before they implement this change. They're going through this test process. We are on their radar, so to speak, not to use that as a pun, but as far as expecting commentary from us on behalf of Nahant residents, as well as from elected officials representing us. So we're definitely keeping a close eye on it. And
Yeah, and you're right. It does say that this whole process is a year out.
yeah, it's quite some time.
We should definitely get, somebody from the HUD on that committee. I know in the earlier conversations, I think Rick Scortis was one person who was at least interested in the process. It is a tough situation because, this new flight path kind of relieves a lot of Swampscott and other areas north of there from this flight path. So it's a tough situation for Nahant.
It is.
Yeah.
A lot of it's environmental justice communities. It's Salem, Danvers, Swampscott, Lynn, Revere. That's the path that they're currently on. So, it is a tough spot for us, but, we're gonna, it may not be, we may be able to push them a little bit a little bit more north on the causeway, so it's not as close to Nahant. And the new technology that Dan knows a lot about, actually keeps them closer to their flight path than, years in the past. So, it may not be as bad as we expect if you're comparing it to, what's occurred in the past, but we're still obviously want to be represented and we want our opinions taken into account.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the precise flight path will help. And, even if we can push them just a little bit north on the causeway, that would help a lot because, you really hear it, when you're on that particularly that like facing side a little Nahant. I'm sure it will be unpleasant, along Wilson Road. So anyway, let's get someone on the committee and see how much leverage we can apply.
How about you, Dan?
Okay.
What's that? Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. I'll jump in the cockpit and we'll fly it together.
Dan's a perfect guy for us on this issue because he has that's his side hobby or interest is
Yeah.
flying planes. And so, usually I'm like, I hear a plane go over town. I call Dan. I'm like, what plane was that? And he looks it up on an app. He knows exactly what type of plane, when it came in, how big it was, whether it should have been there or not. He knows he knows it very well. So
We just had an Airbus pass over the causeway about 4 minutes ago on its way to LAX. There it is. Still see it right there. Touch it.
So, all right.
All right, the next item on the agenda is preserving East Point. I can provide a quick update. At our last meeting, we had exchanged letters with Northeastern about having a meeting to get a discussion going on preserving East Point. I think we have agreement for a meeting next Wednesday. We were hoping for sooner, but there were scheduled conflicts last week, and their attorney, one of their attorneys, was on, I think, vacation this whole week. So next Tuesday will hopefully be we'll have a meeting in Boston and begin those discussions in light of the sort of the new dynamic based on the town meeting votes. Mark or Gene, do you have anything to add there, or Tony?
No, I'm
No,
good.
I'm good, Josh. Be interested in seeing how you do in those meetings.
Yeah. So just for people's information, in order to have these conversations, obviously we can't have a quorum of selectmen, so that limits it to one selectman. Over the past few years, it's been the chair, so that'll be me and Tony, and town council Jeff Blake will be the three people attending this first meeting. So I think that's the only news that I have, and sounds like none of you others have anything more on East Point. So the next item is town administrator's report. What do you have for us, Tony?
Well, I want to talk about the sewer break we had and the sewer project, but I also, before I get to that, I did want to recognize the poll workers and volunteers who contributed to town meeting. We, as mentioned on here a couple times, we had a record number of registered voters at the town meeting at 1,105. So I did want to just recognize the folks who were, dealing with them one-on-one, and there was a lot of folks, there was a lot of residents there, and they did an amazing job. And I just wanted to recognize them personally. Carol Nelson, Polly Anderson, Kim Carmody, Sherry April, Sue Edwards, Jen McCarthy, and Etta Maychek. All of them worked directly with our clerk, Diane Dumpy, who also did an amazing job. And I was speaking with Diane last week, and we were just talking about how smooth things went. And I asked her to give me a list of those names so I could publicly thank them for all the great work that they've done and that they did on that day. We experienced the sewer break last week on the Linway. It's on the sewer main. I know it sparked a lot of questions about where are we with our major sewer project. What's amazing is we have had a sewer break in the first 5 days of June every year for the last 3 years. It's almost to the day, the same exact day. This one wasn't too bad. I don't have a price yet for how much it ultimately cost us, but it was a fairly quick fix. It wasn't a major break, but it was all contained within an existing manhole, so we didn't have to excavate a large number of a wide area of the street in order to get to the break. We were able to get into that structure and make the repair pretty quickly. We have spoken with DEP since then, and Zach and I have met with Tom Simbro from Wright Pierce about where are we in our current process of the sewer main project. I have a schedule to share. We were reviewing the plans this week. Those plans are going to DEP and DCR next week for their review. They do a technical, DEP always does a technical review of the project before any sort of permitting. It actually requires DCR permitting because we're going to be in their roadway. So they'll be taking a look at it as well. And we'll be getting, hopefully, we'll give them about a month to get comments back from them on our project. But we're at 99% design, just waiting on their comments. We might have to make some changes. DCR's traffic plan, we work directly with a consultant that works directly with DCR on all their traffic plans, so we're pretty confident where we are with that. But DCR the state would prefer us to wait until the fall to avoid the summer traffic issues for construction. So our hope is to advertise the bid on this project in August, right at August 1st. We should receive bids and award by the end of August. We'll use September to execute a contract, and by the end of September, we should be installing a temporary bypass pipe. Once that's in, hopefully by the beginning of October, that's when the slip line project will begin, which will take a few months, and hopefully will be done by mid-December. And then we'll come back in the spring and do a permanent pavement restoration after the plow season. I have, let's see. We just had a picture up of what we're going to be seeing. So this is a picture of what our pipe was going to look like once the slip line comes in. This if you can see my mouse here on the far left and far right is the host pipe, which is what our existing pipe would look like. And what they take is an 18-inch plastic pipe. They shrink it down in size and stretch it, and they pull it and push it through the existing host pipe, and then it expands on its own and essentially becomes the new pipe. There's a few different, connections and of this nature, different manholes throughout, different bends of the pipe throughout the system, from the rotary to Linway. And this is basically a picture of what we'll be looking at. Again, this project, this plastic has a 50-year lifespan on it. And I have a copy of our plan, in my office here, that if any of the board of selectmen want to come and take a look at. I have copies here in the town hall. It should be a fairly simple, plug and play job for a contractor because of all the work that Wright Pierce has done so far on it. So bottom line is, our hope is to advertise in August and be breaking ground in September.
Tony, my only question is, so this slip lining will be what part of the pipe?
From the rotary to the treatment plant. We ran into a little bit of an issue, as we talked about at the last meeting, with the borrowing, and that factors into our timeline in the sense that you have to have the borrowing, the money in place before you can award a contract. But it's already been filed as a home rule petition at the State House. I'm speaking with the governor's office tomorrow. It sounds like, from speaking with Senator Creighton's office, that should move through the legislative process very quickly and not interfere with the schedule I just presented.
Sounds So fingers crossed until September. Just a reminder for everybody, the funding for this project was approved at the reduced scale September 15th, 2020 town meeting. So that spending is authorized by the voters.
So that's what I have right
We'll hold
now.
our-
That's what I have right now. We are tomorrow, myself, police, fire, DPW, emergency management are meeting with the key players from the Wall That Heals. We are we're going to be meeting with them pretty regularly from now until July 14th to make sure that we're fully prepared for that event. And as we mentioned earlier in tonight's meeting, we have a number of other things going on here at the town hall with as far as employment opportunities, trying to get people hired, and with our impending retirements at the end of the month. And we're just, we're dealing with summer schedule of maintenance with DPW and trying to get a number of the projects that were approved at last town meeting up and ready to go. We also have Comcast contract is up for renewal in July. Dan and I will be, actually, Dan, do you want to take that for a second?
I do. It is up in on July 9th, actually a month from today. And this is Comcast, not Verizon. Verizon is still good until the end of the year, so we should expect to hear from them around August with a letter. But we got a letter from Comcast a while back wanting to renew, obviously, their license because it's essentially a franchisee. And we need to have a hearing in that regard. And that's one of the things I think Tony was thinking about when he said we're going to need to meet again early July. So it's a hearing that's to make sure that the residents have a chance to pipe in on issues they might have with Comcast. And there are some things we need to sort of check boxes for. And then if that hearing goes well, and I'm sure it will, we'll go ahead and you guys would vote to execute the contract, we'd execute it, and then make a public statement and send a letter to the state. And then that'll be it for that. But before that can happen, we have to do a little bit of negotiation with Comcast. To that end, I've reached out to the representative, hope to hear from them very soon. But I really don't think there's going to be much to talk about because a lot of this stuff is statutory driven. I think two intangibles are going to be the paid contribution that they currently make at $45,000 per contract term, and any sort of poll issues that might come up. But I think it'll be a pretty streamlined process. But we have to get in this hearing though. That is a must. That's a regulatory requirement from the state. So that should occur somewhere in early July, late June, keeping in mind that the contract expires on the 9th.
Dan, if I recall correctly, isn't there two processes that the town could take? One's really sort of a short term and checking all the boxes, but one's a more long term type of process that you could take with this?
Well, this federal law requires a hearing only if we're going to deny the renewal application. But the state I can give you the actual site, 207 CMR 3053 requires a hearing. And again, I don't think it'll be very much. That what we do have to get is notice out. So we have to really set a date very soon so we get the 2-week notice into Lynn item so we can check that box.
Okay.
Hey, just another quick question related to technical. With cell phone reception, I've had a couple of people ask, and it's a question I have myself. Why do we have such a difficulty on the higher side of town with cell phone reception? It cuts out almost immediately, let's say, from Moore Street up to the country club.
That's why we need to pass the Infrastructure Act. Straighten out it. Oh.
I mean, it really is. It's been that way for quite a while.
I know
Something we
that,
can do.
Tony, I know that when they first came in, they go through, Gene, they go through what is called, referred to as a propagation study. And basically, they set up at a high point in town and see where the weak spots are, where the strengths are, and where the towers should be. And the propagation studies in Nahant, the only place that they can put the tower is where it's at currently. And, there are some places that are better than others, but there's not much more you can do at this point.
And it gets, I think, vegetation and overgrowth has something to do with it too.
Yeah, during the summer.
Run into with the police radio situation too.
Yeah.
Well, it's not good.
No, it's not good for the United States. I can't believe it. You get in parts of this country that you can't get coverage. It's unacceptable. I've been to China, I've been to Africa, I've been to other places that have better coverage than I get up in Maine. It's crazy.
It is.
And the country needs to improve in that for sure. But I get off the soapbox.
Good reason to be on it.
Anything else, Tony?
No, that's all. That's
All right. Yeah. Just before we leave this, thanks for mentioning all the people that helped out with the election, and they did a great job. And it got me thinking about, all these different committees that people volunteer for: planning board and library trustees and Concom and zoning board of appeals. It's incredible the devotion, that our citizens put into helping this town run. It's pretty amazing. So thanks to all of them too.
And I just
All right. I think the last.
I just want to remind folks again that short of legislative action, our next Board of Selectmen meeting will likely be under the old rules and will be in person here at the town hall.
That's right.
All right. We're getting the band back together. All right. Next up is Citizens Forum.
Josh, if I could jump in before we open it up. I deferred my opening comments. I was hoping a few people would come on, and I'm not quite sure I see them unless they're on a telephone number. But I got a call from a couple residents, and they agreed that I share their names: Linda Jenkins and Jimmy Ward. They were both interested in stepping up and seeing if there was a possibility to form a sort of a volunteer group in Nahant of citizens that could help out with small projects around town, and also maybe help out some of the seniors, some household chores and those types of things. The reason for their concern was they really wanted to start focusing on, what we have in common rather than our differences, and to sort of try to bring the community together a little bit more. And I thought it was a great idea. I talked to the town administrator about this briefly today, and I'd like to try to foster that sort of involvement. They're willing to step up and, form a volunteer committee that will participate in these activities. Tony had some really good ideas about this. I think it has there's some merit, and it's certainly something we should look into. There are a lot of small little projects around town, whether it's painting railings or painting the wharf, for example, where the community could get together and do that. So I thought it was a great opportunity to take a look at this. And Tony, you had some even more ideas about this, so maybe you could share them.
we've been, when I first came in a couple of years back, it was something we talked about really doing last year, year number 2, was ramping up, public events, community events, things that bring the community together. And then we went through the opposite scenario with the pandemic and had to keep everybody apart. So now that we're on the other side of that, and hopefully we continue to see that and not have a reoccurrence of that pandemic, we are starting to take a look at public events and what we can do this summer that can bring the community together. And it was coincidental that you called me with that idea, because I had just left talking with Kristen Taylor and our new summer intern, Olivia Cook, about just that very thing. And the first thing we put, one of the number one things that we had Olivia start working on was what it would take for us to maybe do a farmer's market in town, one every other weekend or something like that. We were looking at, other types of events that we could do, like outdoor movies for kids, different little, types of community events that help bring the community together. So I'd love to meet with Linda and Jim and Olivia together, and Kristen, and maybe Mark, if you could be there, and we could do some brainstorming, and then maybe see if maybe the next step is to expand it, and offer it up to other residents in town to see if they want to get involved. But I love the idea, and I love the idea of creating not only volunteer opportunities to give back to the community, and especially like our seniors and the residents, which we can involve the Council on Aging, but having some maybe creating some new events that are here to stay year after year. I like it. I like the idea a lot. So,
and I'll talk to Linda and Jim tomorrow, and perhaps we can schedule some meetings and report back to the board about that.
Wonderful idea. I love it.
and this year, we're already off to such a great start with the event, the May event that happened up at East Point, and then we have the Wall That Heals coming in July. So we already have like these 2 new events that brought a bunch of people together. So we're in a good spot. I like it. I like the direction we're heading in.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Very exciting. Okay, citizens forum. Gene, did you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right, time for citizens forum. If we have anything in the chat, Tony.
Nothing in the chat. So if anybody on Zoom wants to unmute themselves, please announce your name and address.
Going once.
Hi, Brennan Baronic Olmsted, 2 Summer Street. I had a question of who do I contact in the town about getting a sailboat keel, which is still on my property from a storm 2 years ago. I think that the time the DPW was going to come down with their front end loader and remove it. It's about 300 pounds.
I'm sorry, Brennan, I thought we did remove it. But I'll talk to Zach. Was there an issue with access?
Well, I think it was the tide schedule, because, it has to be low enough and it has to be during the daylight hours and on a weekday.
wasn't that removed by a private, didn't the owner of the boat hire a removal company to do that job?
No, that was the large boat. This was the sailboat that got blown in and then smashed on my rocks.
On the Tudor wharf,
This would have been the Tudor Beach side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk to the DPW.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Tom Alessi at 155 Nahant Road. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So last year you guys changed your fees on the garbage removal process. And it used to be households. Now I own 4 units there, and now you're charging me per unit. So I called the DPW and asked them several times to have the garbage picked up at 2 Kennedy Court. They used to do it for many, many years, and then all of a sudden you guys changed the contract and they stopped it. And so I called the DPW at least 5 times. I called your office a couple times, and I spoke to someone today, a woman. She told me to get on the Zoom call and speak to you guys directly. So they're saying that they can't get the big trucks down the road, but they have smaller trucks. And you have Waste Management that is coming up for a contract. And I have tenants that are taking their garbage and walking all the way down Kennedy Court to Nahant Road with their garbage. And it should not be that way. I mean, we should be able to compromise and say go halfway down Kennedy Court where the truck can pull up and pick up the barrels, instead of my tenants going all the way down to Nahant Road. And I like to have some sort of solution to this.
Yeah, I wish Ed was still. Hi, Tom. This is Tony.
Hi.
Thanks for jumping on the call. Sorry we missed you. I wish Ed was still on the call. We do have smaller trucks that service some of the tighter roads in town in Bass Point area and Little Nahant area. So I can definitely ask Ed if we could include Kennedy Court to that list.
Okay, that'd be great. I mean, it'd be awesome, because I don't mind paying a little bit more, but as long as I get the service for it, I don't really care.
No, it's curbside, right? So it should come. You shouldn't have to walk it all the way down the end of the street. When we talk to Ed, I don't see why we couldn't come up with a solution.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Anybody else for citizens forum? I have to keep moving around to get good Wi-Fi here. Okay, with that, then we have no executive session this evening. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Andrew, aye. Thank you, everybody.
All right, guys.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Good night.